On this Monday night, name dropping. Washington's NFL team is being rebranded, ridding itself of a racist slur.
It's time for a change.
I don't think it's right to change it.
As Edmonton's CFL team tackles its own controversy, the Prime Minister's apology over the We Charity affair.
And I'm sincerely sorry.
Why the organization is now taking out ads. With one province about to start covering up, another is moving towards reopening up as an American state starts shutting down, all because of COVID-19. And never forgetting the victims of Flight 752.
She was so giving.
The heartfelt plea from their families.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Robin Gill.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with a dramatic change in the sports world. Washington's NFL team is punting its name, the Redskins. Critics have long viewed it among the most racially insensitive in North American sports. For years, the team resisted pressure to toss out the offensive line, but a wave of recent protests and calls to end systemic racism led the Redskins to become the latest symbol to fall. And as Eric Sorensen reports, a major Canadian team is also looking at a significant switch.
Fans may have meant no harm, but Redskins is a racist term, and in 2020, demands to end systemic racism finally forced Washington's NFL team to abandon its name. In a statement, the team announced, "We will be retiring the Redskins name and logo and are working to develop a new name." This Hall of Famer had been calling for it.
Times have changed, and it's time for a change in Washington.
Change the name! For decades, many have called on the team's owner to drop the name. Dan Snyder, unmoved, once vowed he would never change it. But this year, financial pressure intensified from sponsors. FedEx, Pepsi, and Nike threatened to end their lucrative relationships with the team.
You look at the pressure being applied from Nike, who has taken the Redskins name off of their online database.
Recent protests for racial justice in the U.S. and in Canada have accelerated demands to remove racist names and symbols. And a Canadian team may be next, the Edmonton Eskimos. This month, the team said past research found no consensus on name change, but would ramp up engagement with the Inuit communities. Nunavut's Member of Parliament, Mumulak Kakak, was blunt, tweeting, "The fact there was no consensus means change the name." Since then, a major team sponsor, Bel Air Direct, has stated, "To continue on with our partnership, we will need to see a commitment to a name change." The Eskimos responded, "We are accelerating our review and will update by the end of the month." One critic says teams are considering dollars more than social justice.
This just speaks to the fact that this is a financial move, that the industry is doing it because they have to and not because they want to, because they could have made the change a long time ago.
Other pro teams are feeling the pressure. The Chicago Blackhawks, the Atlanta Braves and their fans tomahawk chop, and baseball's Cleveland Indians are looking to change. They say the name means no disrespect, but
I don't think that's a good enough answer today. I think it's time to move forward.
It may be long overdue, but one name change is underway, and others may follow. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Washington's NFL team is just the latest bout of pressure over offensive names and logos. As Eric mentioned, Cleveland's baseball team is considering a name change after being called the Indians since 1915. As for its logo, the team only stopped using the caricature of Chief Wahoo in its branding last year. It took decades of pressure for the MLB to admit the cartoonish symbol of a Native American was no longer appropriate. When the Philadelphia Warriors basketball team moved to San Francisco in 1969, it dropped the Native American logo in favor of the Golden Gate Bridge. And the Baltimore Bullets were named after a nearby ammunition foundry. That team then renamed itself the Washington Wizards to move away from violent overtones. A mea culpa from the Prime Minister today. Justin Trudeau addressed reporters for the first time since his family's ties to the We charity came to light. The charity was awarded a multi-million-dollar contract to administer the summer student grants program. Abigail Bimman has more on the apology and the change in tone from Ottawa.
Weeks after questions about We began, the Prime Minister now says he shouldn't have been involved in cabinet conversations about granting We a nearly $1 billion contract.
I made a mistake, and not recusing myself immediately from the discussions, given our family's history. And I'm sincerely sorry.
His family's history includes $312,000 paid to his mother for speaking events over the past 4 years, $40,000 for his brother, and a $1,400 payment for his wife in 2012. Monday afternoon, the finance minister tweeted an apology for not recusing himself too. His daughter works for the WE organization. The Prime Minister was not clear about whether he knew his family was paid.
I knew that my brother and my mother work as professional public speakers, and it is not surprising to me that they got paid by WE, but I did not know the details, and as I said, I should have known the details.
And if he is in fact sorry, that he can demonstrate that to Canadians by not invoking cabinet confidence, appearing and testifying at committee, and releasing all documents and the contract itself.
We're also hearing more from the founders of WE. Mark and Craig Kielburger took out full-page newspaper ads and posted this statement on their website. They say they've made mistakes which they sincerely regret and promise to have more to say in the coming days. But it's a controlled narrative told on their terms. They've so far declined our interview request. The statement says WE hasn't profited from the government contract in any way or accepted any reimbursement for work to establish the program, and the brothers point out they have worked with federal and provincial governments of many stripes. The organization Democracy Watch is calling for an extended investigation by the Ethics Commissioner and has more questions for the RCMP.
Did anyone in the Prime Minister's office or anyone acting on his behalf or the Prime Minister himself intervene in the contracting process in order to essentially rig it in favor of a sole source contract for WE charity?
The Office of the Ethics Commissioner tells us he expects to decide this week whether to expand that investigation. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, says he's particularly sorry that young people will have to wait longer for opportunities. According to WE, in the first week after the program launch, there were 35,000 applicants. Abigail Bimman, Global News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister confirmed today the federal government will be extending its program to subsidize wages for companies hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic.
This week, we'll be announcing an extension to the wage subsidy program until December to give greater certainty and support to businesses as we restart the economy.
The program covers 75% of wages up to a weekly maximum of $847 for workers at eligible companies and nonprofit organizations. As of July 6th, the program has given over $18 billion to more than 252,000 companies across the country. The Prime Minister did not say today how the government plans to revamp eligibility rules. Critics claim the guidelines stop some employers from getting the aid they need. Much of Ontario will move into the next phase of its reopening plan this week, but not the most heavily populated part of the province. 24 regions will move into Phase 3 on Friday, but the Greater Toronto Area and surrounding regions, as well as the Windsor-Essex area, will have to wait a bit longer. That's because they moved into Phase 2 later. Phase 3 allows 99% of businesses to reopen.
We won't stop until we get every person in Ontario, until we get every worker in Ontario back to work and back on their feet.
In Phase 3, indoor dining will finally be allowed with limits on capacity. The same goes for gyms, bars, and nightclubs, but without the dancing. Movie theaters and live performances are getting the green light, also with caps on attendance. Up to 50 people will be able to gather indoors, 100 people outdoors, and physical distancing measures will need to be in place. Anyone entering an indoor public space in Quebec will soon need to put on a mask.
I ask all Quebecers to wear a mask in shops and in public transportation. The COVID-19 virus is really dangerous. It's easy to catch when you're close to another person.
Legault says it will be mandatory for anyone over the age of 12 to wear face masks inside shops, businesses, and other enclosed places effective Saturday. The only exception will be for people with specific medical conditions. The rule will also apply to people inside restaurants, but only when customers are walking around, not while sitting at a table. As of now, it will be on the businesses to enforce the order, and they could be fined between $400 to as much as $6,000 if they fail to do so. Individuals who aren't abiding by the rule could begin facing penalties at the start of next month. South of the border, outbreaks are getting so bad, the most populated state in the U.S., California, is shutting things down again. And it's a perilous situation right across the country. Yesterday alone, there were nearly 58,000 new cases in the U.S. And according to the New York Times, that's a 51% increase in the number of new cases from 2 weeks earlier. But with novel coronavirus cases surging, President Donald Trump is attacking one of the nation's top doctors rather than the virus itself. Jackson Proskow reports.
Florida is now the epicenter of the pandemic in the U.S. Today, Miami has a higher rate of COVID-19 cases per capita than New York City did at its peak. Deaths are rising here and in a majority of states. In Texas, they're building temporary morgues. California took the drastic step of closing all indoor venues, including restaurants and bars.
This is a new statewide action, effective today.
With the certainty of more grim days ahead, the White House has adopted a new coronavirus strategy: discredit the messenger, by going after the country's top infectious disease specialist, Dr. Anthony Fauci.
This is a really serious problem. It is truly historic. We haven't even begun to see the end of it yet.
Fauci has become more vocal in recent weeks. The Trump administration has responded by undermining his credibility.
Well, I think we are in a good place. I disagree with him. You know, Dr. Fauci said don't wear masks, and now he says wear them.
The White House now accuses Fauci of not being dire enough in his initial warnings.
I respect Dr. Fauci a lot, but Dr. Fauci is not 100% right.
Fauci's messages have followed the ever-evolving science. From the outset, he warned the situation could always change. 67% of Americans say they trust Dr. Fauci for accurate information about the pandemic, compared to just 26% who say they trust President Trump. Trump also retweeted a former game show host who accused the U.S. Centers for Disease Control of lying about the virus, claiming it's all about the election.
What are the consequences of discrediting scientists at a point like this?
When we discredit scientists, we undercut our own ability to be able to deal with the virus. This should not be political. Science, facts, data, that's not political, just like the virus is not political.
Tonight, there are signs that the White House may not be able to ignore the science or the reality much longer. California's two largest school districts now say they will not be able to resume in-person lessons as planned this fall. And in Miami, a top doctor there said the situation as it stands right now is comparable to Wuhan, China in March. Robin.
Jackson Proskow in Washington. There's a dire warning from the World Health Organization that people are getting mixed messages about COVID-19, and it's undermining efforts to stop further infections. The organization's Director General says the virus is raging around the world and will get worse if countries don't stick to strict healthcare precautions.
Let me be blunt. Too many countries are headed in the wrong direction. The virus remains public enemy number one. But the actions of many governments and people do not reflect of this.
The WHO says there will be no return to the old normal for the foreseeable future, but there are ways to control the disease without shutting down our lives. They include reducing fatality and suppressing transmission and empowering communities to take their own measures. There are more than 13 million cases of COVID-19 around the world, and more than 500,000 people have died. A grieving mother at a growing memorial for her two little girls. Coming up, her first public comments as the search for the children's father ramps up. Plus, remembering Kelly Preston, John Travolta's tribute to his late wife. Tonight, the mother of two girls found dead in Quebec Saturday is sharing the pain that no parent should ever have to bear. A manhunt is intensifying for the girls' father, Martin Carpentier. Police have brought in K9 units and a thermal detection plane to try and track him down. And as Mike Armstrong reports, they do have some leads.
With unmistakable and unimaginable pain, Amélie Lemieux Monday afternoon broke her silence. Just 2 days after her daughters were found dead, she visited the growing memorial in their memory and then flanked by family and loved ones, stepped to the microphones. Lemieux thanked police for their work and the public for its support, and asked that her daughters be her stars in the night to light her way through the pain. There have been no sightings or contact with Martin Carpentier for days. The only clues police have were found by the bodies of Romy and Nora. Exactly what that was, police aren't saying, admitting only it is the reason they're still searching in the same area.
The last elements that we found yesterday leads us to think that this is the best place that maybe we could find Martin Carpentier.
Now, other than actually finding him, the big question is what happened? Carpentier and Lemieux separated years ago. The breakup wasn't recent, and just this spring, things appear to have been okay. This is a video Carpentier and Nora made for their scout troop when meetings were cancelled due to COVID-19. Nora says to her friends, keep hoping for a camping trip this summer. Now, last Wednesday night, Carpentier had his daughters. The mystery started when his car was found after what police describe as a serious one-vehicle accident. No one was found inside. Since then, police have been searching a sector just to the east. It was in that area that the girls' bodies were found. Autopsies are being done, but police aren't sharing the details. They do, however, say it appears Carpentier was injured in the car accident. Between that, the heat, and the thick brush, they say Carpentier may not be on the run. He may be dead.
All those factors, with the time passing by, can let us think that maybe he's not alive anymore.
One thing that has hindered the search is the public. There have been unfounded rumors of arrests and people showing up in the forest to participate in the search. The story has gripped the province, but police are asking people to stay away and follow only official sources. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Tragedy and an eerie coincidence still ahead. The search ends for a Glee star. The youngest daughter of anti-apartheid leaders Nelson and Winnie Mandela has died. Zindzi Mandela died today in Denmark. She was serving as South Africa's ambassador to the Nordic country. She rose to prominence in 1985 when she read her father's letter rejecting the white minority government's offer to release Nelson Mandela from prison if he denounced violence perpetrated by the African National Congress. Mandela continued the fight against racism after the deaths of her father and mother. She was 59. Hollywood actor Kelly Preston has passed away after a 2-year battle with breast cancer.
I'm too strong for you, loser.
Preston was known for her energetic roles in movies like Jerry Maguire, Twins, and Mischief. She was also the wife of Hollywood star John Travolta, who in an Instagram post said Preston fought a courageous fight with the love and support of so many. She was 57. In California, the search for missing actor Naya Rivera has reached a grim conclusion. Search teams recovered Rivera's body from a lake this morning. The Glee star vanished during an outing last week with her 4-year-old son. He was found alone on a rented boat. Rivera was best known for her role as Santana Lopez on the TV show. Today is also the 7th anniversary of the death of her Glee co-star, Corey Monteith. Up next, 7 months since the tragedy of Flight 752, and families are still waiting for justice. It's been just over 6 months since the downing of Ukraine Flight 752. All 176 people on board, including 55 Canadian citizens and 30 permanent residents, died. The jet was shot down by Iran's military, and the investigation has made little progress. Next week, Iran is expected to send the plane's black boxes to Paris. Our Europe Bureau Chief Crystal Goomansingh has more on the next step and a plea from the victims' families.
Shadi is remembered as the strong one, a sister with a big heart, and a daughter who chased down her dreams of continuing her education in Canada.
She was so giving. She was ready to help all of her family members, all of her friends.
Shadi means happiness and joy in Farsi. That's exactly what was ripped from the families of the 176 people killed on Flight 752. The Ukrainian Airlines plane was shot down in January just after takeoff. Human error, according to Iran.
I don't feel this pain is healing at all. I feel in the last 6 months it has even deepened itself within me, this anger, this sadness.
Within days of the plane being shot down, Iran pledged to send the black boxes away so that they could be analyzed, potentially in France. That never happened. Tehran then said there was no point because they were so badly damaged. Well, now Canadian officials have confirmed that the black boxes will be sent to Paris the week of the 20th.
Families want answers.
Canada, along with all of the grieving nations, vowed to get justice for the victims. Members of the Transportation Safety Board will be present in Paris to observe the work on the flight data recorders. A government spokesperson says families are being kept informed using a special website. The families created their own website, fearing people have forgotten about the tragedy. Shadi's brothers say the Canadian government has been helpful.
They've been quite generously offering their support. But having said that, we haven't achieved anything.
The first step is generally decoding the black boxes. That's still days away, if it happens at all.
There are too many lies coming up, too many conspiracy theories. Our hearts pain more and more.
Besides learning what's on the flight data recorders, the families want to know why the airspace was open during hostile times, and if it's because the government didn't want to lose out on the thousands of dollars it makes allowing commercial flights in its airspace. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, London.
And that's Global National for this Monday. I'm Robin Gill. Tonight, your Canada is Bright Sand Lake in Saskatchewan. We would love to see your corner of this country, so please keep sending your photos to viewers at globalnational.com. Thank you for watching. Donna Friesen will be back here tomorrow. Have a great night.